Hey everyone, welcome to the voboss podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I am so excited to have very special guest, Heidi Rew, joining us to the show. Hey Heidi, yay!
Hey Ann, so glad to be here.
Oh, awesome. So a little bit of information about Heidi for the bosses who are not familiar with her. She started her career on air in radio, but was introduced to voiceover by her coworker who eventually turned into her husband. She is mainly a commercial voice actor and has voiced national TV commercials for Jiffy Lube, Secrets Resorts, Redfin, Kohl's, Danimals, and Baker's Chocolate, and probably many, many more. And about 8 years ago, she and her husband started the Atlanta Voiceover Studio, a training and recording studio. Heidi, thank you so much for being with us today. It's so exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Ann. And we already Ann already talked. She was our guest on the Atlanta Voiceover Studio podcast. And it was so good. We had to do a part 2, which is the first time that's ever happened. So, yes, I'm so excited to be here, Ann.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm actually going to just, turn around and ask you some of the same questions that you asked me.
Okay.
For those bosses who are not familiar with Atlanta Voiceover Studio and Heidi, why don't you start off by talking a little bit about yourself and what that journey was like going from radio to VO?
Yep. I always wanted to go into radio. That was kind of my career goal. And this handsome coworker came in my studio one day and was like, "Hey, do you do voiceover? Because I could listen to your voice all day."
What a line.
I know. He always says that's like his one and only line. But it worked. And he told me all about the voiceover industry, kind of got me going. And I really did think, this will just be something that I do on the side. And then 5-6 years after that, things were changing at the radio station. And at that time, then Mike and I were married. And so to find on-air, jobs in another city for both of you is really, really almost impossible. And so things had just changed, and Mike was like, "Why don't you just quit and just do voiceover and on-camera stuff full time?" And so that's what I did.
And there you go.
And there we go.
Now, when we were talking before, we were discussing about agents, and it took you 4 years to book a job with your first Atlanta agent. Let's talk about that journey, because I'll tell you, for me, when I started, I'm going to date myself. I literally was working for 4 years before I even thought about an agent, because back then we didn't really have like Facebook groups, or there wasn't a lot of ways to communicate with other people in the industry, which I believe is one of the reasons why you might have started your studio as well, to see people face to face. And
yes, totally, and have that community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a great agent here in Atlanta, and I would get auditions and everything and just wouldn't book. And I thought, I really suck at this, obviously. And I would ask my agent, I said, gosh, why? Richard, it was Richard Hutchison Management, he's retired at this point. But I said, "Richard, why haven't you dropped me at this point?" And he said, "Heidi, because you're doing good auditions. It just sometimes takes time. Just keep going, keep going." And I did. And then year 5 was when I started booking a lot. It's when I booked a national spot that ran 3 years, gave us SAG health insurance for 3 years. So it was just one of those things where it just took some time. And I had some other clients, on the sides from self-marketing and a smaller agency that I was with in Florida. But
now, do you think that it had, was it possible that maybe you were needing feedback? I assume in 4 years your performance, was improved, and that takes a lot of resilience sometimes. I mean, I remember my early career as well too, and it was difficult. I mean, when you didn't get feedback or you didn't book, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? I mean, do I even belong in this industry? I mean, did you ever run into any of those feelings?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I would tell Mike, like, you liar. No, I'm just kidding. Like, what in the world? I don't have a good voice, obviously. But he really he's always been an encourager of mine. But a big part of it was, I was doing radio full-time, and also, I was on air, so I was doing like events on the weekend. I mean, it was busy. And so voiceover was a side thing. I didn't do the kind of training that I needed to do to get to that level. I was very lucky to even get on with Richard at the very beginning because, I mean, all I had kind of was Mike's training and tutelage. And that is why I say to so many people too that, one, you never know how long it's going to take to book, so keep going.
For that overnight success.
Right. But also, you do need to train. And if I had trained more, who knows, that 4 years could have been shortened to a much shorter time frame.
Well, that it's so interesting because, I just was looking at your website again, and your studio offers, everything. You have a team of coaches that basically covers every genre. I think anything that anybody ever would want to do in voiceover, you guys cover at your studio. So let's talk about coaching because we had a discussion about it on your podcast. What is it that you feel is some key qualities or qualifications of a good coach and what you look for your own team and for yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one of the things that we really look for is for people that have a heart to teach and that aren't just in there to make extra money or to be known, that they really care about the students that they're trying to reach. And then a big part of that is with Atlanta Voiceover Studio, we have 3 values that we run our decisions through and really have just kind of been the compass for our business. And one of those values is grace. And Mike and I define that as meeting people where they're at.
I love that.
And so we always talk about that with the instructors of like, you have no idea where somebody's going to come in, whether they walk through the door or they appear on the screen. You have no idea where they're at. And so our goal is to find out where they're at and how do we get them at least one step closer to their goal, if not 2 steps. But that's the goal. It's like really meeting people where they're at, and which was huge during COVID. Like that.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh my gosh, that was so helpful to remember. So those are some of the biggest things, and just being able to really personalize the instruction to each person, which kind of goes with that meeting people where they're at. It's just not everybody responds to the same type of technique, or you know what I mean? Like you really have to find what works for that person.
Yeah, and it's very much a personal journey, I think.
Yes.
You're because it is a creative journey, and I do feel that everybody reacts to it differently. Everybody learns in a different way, and I know that just from my years of teaching in front of the class, that you do have all different types of students. And I think it's even more important to meet them where they are when you're talking about something as a creative endeavor that is so deeply personal to them, because any frustration or any kind of roadblock can be really devastating, and that can affect performance like this. And so I think it's so important that you have teachers who care. That I love that you have. I mean, that's where I always talk about my students with e-learning. You've got to be that teacher that has a heart that cares, and that's important when you're. It's a journey you're taking these students on, and it's a delicate journey.
Yes, and because your voice is really important. And there have been some people that come in that have been told certain things about their voice or believed certain things about their voice that are not right or not correct. And to be able to show them like, hey, you actually have power in your voice, and you thought that maybe you didn't, or you thought that it was, some of the biggest ones that we've had come through the studio is like, I always was kind of told that I was weak because of the way that I sounded. And man,
that's a hard,
that does something. Yeah.
That's hard to take.
That is hard.
Gosh.
So to be able to help them discover that, and how do you find that empowerment through your own voice? You know, that's really crucial.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then let's talk a little bit about then as they're on their journey discovering, like, where, you know, thinking about where do they feel the most passion or joy, or where does their voice fit in the industry? What advice can you give, let's say, people just entering in this industry in order to find their niche? And I don't know if, like, I think niches can be ever evolving. I don't know about you, but
100%.
you know, how do they discover that? What's your best advice for that?
So one of the things that we do that's really important, but you could do this whether you're working with a private coach or whatever, but we have one of our foundational training is called the Beginner Voiceover Intensive, and it's a 3-month thing. It has like this curriculum that goes with it. And so one of the weeks that we do, you go into the booth to record, and you do just a bunch of different spots that are in different types of tones and specs and everything. And then your class and the instructor will write down like what they feel like is your natural 3 top like reads. You know, just you as yourself, and that you can just, as you're speaking, it just comes so naturally, right? You don't have to push it or force it or anything.
Sure.
And then they also write down descriptions about your voice. So maybe it's like, you know, the grandfather that always has a funny joke. You know what I mean? Like it's like that warmth, caring, but also he can be funny and, you know what I mean, witty. So they write down all of that stuff. So then that person that comes out of the booth, they have all this vocabulary of some of their strengths with their voice, right? Which is kind of just the step 1 of figuring out, like, where do I fit? You know, what is that uniqueness that I can bring to the table? So you can do that even with like a private coach. They can help you discover that. But another thing that's really important, I think, is just be a collector of data, you know, yourself.
Yeah.
And because we forget so quickly when people give us like specific encouragement or things of like, oh, I really love, you know, the way that you've got that texture in your voice. It kind of feels like a warm blanket or whatever. Anytime somebody says something about your voice, write it down.
Great
Collect
idea.
that data, because then you're going to have this whole data set of stuff that you're like, oh, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I can bring to the table. And then when you do that, then you can kind of figure out, okay, what are the specific genres that maybe that I would fit in the best.
Yeah,
so.
That would cater to those qualities. Yeah. It's so hard to assess. It's kind of like, I think that's why self-direction is so difficult, right? I mean, you have to assess where you're at by yourself. And I think that I love the fact that you have a whole class where you have other ears involved in the process and other people helping, saying, well, this is what I hear. And it can really help you to help define where your space can be and where your niche can be. And also where you might want to grow. Because I think there are a lot of times somebody will say something about your voice that you didn't expect. Like somebody will say, oh my God, that's a great character. And I'm like, but me, I've never thought about doing character work or animation work or that kind of a thing. So I think that the process with a great coach or another set of ears that can help you to establish that can really help you to grow, and then and can help you to develop your ear. I think there's a whole science to developing an ear, which is that doesn't happen overnight.
No, I still feel like I'm fine tuning my ear, and as things change, you know what I mean. Like I've grown up learning that polished sound. And that polished sound in commercial is just like, so many people don't want the polished sound. And it is so hard to like
not be
make
perfect.
sure that I'm hearing the right things. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I want to default to that. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. So outside of performance, right? What would you say are key factors for any boss out there in order to grow their business? What sorts of things outside of course, keeping their performance, and I say coaching and training all the time, but what else is important for a successful business?
So personally for me, I am all about relationships. That has been one of the things that has helped me create a sustainable full-time voiceover career. It really is. I not only do I seek out relationships, and I don't seek them out for like, oh, what can you give me? But I have the mentality of like, give more than you get. But I just think that the more relationships that I have and the more people that I know, the more potential opportunity is going to come my way, because of people that they work with, people that they know, they like, and they trust. And so I am really a big proponent on creating those relationships and maintaining those relationships as best as possible over the long term. And that has been one of the biggest things that during times where things aren't, I'm not booking as many commercials or whatever, that those clients come back. It's just like, feels like magic,
right? In those lulls, because I think the biggest difference, right, in our businesses is that, as opposed to, because I worked in the corporate world, I expected that paycheck and got that paycheck every other week. And now all of a sudden we've got, our own business, which, now we got to hustle. We got to go get that business. We have to nurture those relationships, and we have to sustain, which I think you said the word sustainability, which I really love, because over the years, I mean, my gosh, our overnight success, which, for me has been how many years, like 10, something like that. I mean, it's been sticking with it. Talk to me a little bit, because you've been in the industry for a long time. What is it that you say, what would you say is key to success in terms of having a career that can continually, I guess, evolve along with the times and be sustained for a long time?
Yeah. So I want to share really quick this. I don't know if you've ever read James Clear's Atomic Habits.
I have not.
Book. It's so good. But he gives an example of like bamboo. And, bamboo, if you've ever seen, like, there's a bamboo forest here in Atlanta. It's on this beautiful hike, and it's just so gorgeous. It's so tall and everything. Well, bamboo, when they first are planted, you don't see hardly anything for 5 years. And then all of a sudden, within 6 weeks, they shoot up like, I don't know how. I'm going to say 90 feet. That's not true. You can fact check me on that
tall.
if we have
That's
fact
tall.
check. Anyways, it's something along those lines. Very, very tall in about 6 weeks. And the reason why is because they develop such a strong root system that's what they're doing in that 5 years. So you don't even see, you're like, what's going on? Nothing's going on. And actually a lot is going on.
Yeah.
So that way
that.
they can stay strong for years and years. So that's part of it, is I think, creating a good foundation. But I think the other part, and I think this is really true, and I can't give anybody a certain like applicable thing to do to discover this, but the problem about becoming a voice talent, especially if you're in another, job or whatever, is that it's all on you to do you are the business, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Sometimes the biggest hindrance to growth is ourselves and things that we find ourselves doing, for me, I want people to like me. I want to do a really good job. Like, I don't ever want to not do a good job, obviously. And I can get really caught up on my performance, and it just makes me want to go, I'm done. This is too much. I want to quit. Well, that has nothing to do with my business. It has nothing to do with numbers. It has nothing to do with data. It's all on me, my own insecurities, my own, fears about things. So I think that the more that I'm able to uncover things about myself, like little hiccups that I put in my own way, actually the better my business is, and it's easier to not have to face those, I think, when you are in another business where there's a lot of other people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Coming to your aid, and being able to do things and make up for your weaknesses and everything. So.
It's such a thing when we talk about, having moments of doubt and wanting to give up and wanting to quit. I mean, self-sabotage. I mean, we talk about that quite a bit. I mean, what's your best advice? What can you say to those bosses out there that are just, they're like frustrated. I'm not booking any work. I can't continue to, fund this career if I'm not making any money at it. Because that just happens quite a bit. I hear that a lot from talent.
Of course. I heard there's a wonderful psychologist, Angela Duckworth. She's written books and everything. And she said something that I will never forget. And this one thing will help so much. She said, don't quit on a bad day. If you're having a bad day and you want to quit, do not quit on that day. Now, if you have a great day and you just booked a great thing and you still want to quit, okay, then quit. Because you know that it's not the challenges that are coming your way, but it's just the actual job itself. But if it's those challenges and those hard days, push through, because I still have days like that. And I'm
right?
How
Isn't that
long
true?
into my career?
And we've been in this forever, right? And we still have days.
It's crazy. And I think if people looked at it, you're like, but you're making a great full-time income from this job. Mm-hmm. And there are still days that I want to quit. And I just think, okay, you know what? I don't quit on a bad day. And then also sometimes I do quit.
Don't
just
quit
for the day.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I'm quitting for the day.
I'm either burnt out or I've got just too much. I need to quit for today. I need to go on a walk. I need to do something else for my mental health. And then tomorrow, jump back in.
Yeah, I like that. So what are some important tools that you would recommend for voice actors in order to further their career?
So I will say that I have had a CRM since I started, but let me tell you, this CRM is, it's Google Sheets. Like that. Yeah. That was my CRM.
Mine was Google too. That was my CRM
for years, and I honestly,
it actually still is.
Yeah, and same. I'm literally right before we got on here. I've been trying to migrate all of my clients over to voiceover View because, listen, my system works for me. I get it. The only problem is a search function. I don't like that because I love to be able to go. I don't have a great memory, and so I just had a session where I booked a job, and the guy was like, "Hey, Heidi, we worked together years ago on this," and I'm like, "So I'm typing in, you know what I mean? Who did I? What was this?" And I found it. It was fine, and I have all my notes there. But I really do need to be able to quickly search things.
Get to it.
Because too, if you've been in this business, you probably are the same way for a long time. The people that are at one company that you worked with years ago, they may be at a completely different company, and so you need to be able to reference things and search things. So that CRM, no matter what you do, have a way to track your clients. Have a way to track your clients, and don't get frustrated if it's not perfect or whatever, but just start doing it. Start putting those notes in there, because again, relationships, that's so big. And if you get to the point where you're booking a ton, it's really hard to keep track. I know that sounds so weird, but it's just like I can't remember the guy that I was talking to about his kid's softball game that weekend that I would love to mention to him, in the follow-up email. And so you really, so that would be my first tool, for sure. And then the second tool, to be honest with you, and I would say maybe you can't do this at the very beginning of your career, but a bookkeeper.
Oh gosh, I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
I mean,
I say over and over again, my accountant is the best investment I ever made in my business.
100%. I agree. I agree. I mean, when I was learning QuickBooks, I mean, I remember crying at the table in front of my CPA and accountant. Like, I was like, make it make sense. You know, it was so hard, and
it's tedious too. It's not, if it doesn't bring you joy, outsource it. That's what I say.
And do you like reconciling? Because I hate it.
I hate it.
I hate it. It is the easiest thing. It's
but
like,
my accountant loves it. I mean, that's why they're an accountant for a career. They love numbers.
Oh my gosh.
For the most part.
It.
Yeah,
I would just dread it. I would put it off, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the year, I have to reconcile like months, and I'm like, okay.
I've had my accountant, I want to say, for a good 8 years or so. She knows me so well. She knows my business so well, which is really wonderful. Yeah. And she's not anywhere near me. So, you know, we use QuickBooks Online. And literally, the two of us can meet once a week or every other week to kind of go over things. And she can generate numbers for me. She does my taxes, I don't even have to prep anything. That's the cool thing, is that, you know, before it was like, oh my God, tax season was just, you know, the end of the year would come and I'd be like, oh God, I've got to get everything together and I've got to somehow figure out how to do it. And QuickBooks keeps updating, and, you know, it's like trying to make things simpler, but I don't like it. And so
what we're saying is,
spend time.
Don't quit on a bad day or on tax day.
Yes, or on tax day. I can't tell you, though, how wonderful it was to have taxes done, you know, so quickly. I mean, literally, I just said, hey, it's April. Are we all set? She goes, yeah, I'll have your numbers tomorrow. Like, literally, it was like, oh God, I didn't have to really organize anything.
Yeah.
You know, every time, you know, I would get something in the mail that, you know, my forms, I would just forward them to her. She had it, and it was just boom. She was able to do it, and it was wonderful. So those are some good business tools: a CRM and an accountant. Anything else? Let's talk about what about our product? What about demos? I mean, I consider a demo a portfolio of your product, and your product is your voice. Let's talk about demos. How important are they these days? There's been some discussion out there about how important really is the demo. I mean, isn't the audition more important? What do you think?
I mean, I think that the demo is still important for a lot of different reasons. I mean, one, if you do want to get on with an agent, you need a demo. You need a good demo, and it needs to be really, really good.
Because you can't audition at every second of the day. And your demo is kind of there as the representative voice of you when you're not available to audition at the very second that a client might want to hear your voice.
Plus, I think that being able to be ready for a demo, and I'm speaking more, I will say I'm not an expert on a lot of the demos, but commercial demo, you know, we do at Atlanta Voiceover Studio. We let everybody else do all the other stuff. But also that's kind of your way of going, I'm ready to do this. Like as a talent, I feel like when you are ready to do a commercial demo, then it also shows to you, like, you need to be able to it's kind of like just showing your work. Like, I'm ready. Look, and here's what I can do.
Here's my work. Yeah.
You know, we actually, we used to have like a long wait list for our demos, and now we don't have a wait list. And part of it is because we put all these like barriers for people before they did their demo. So I think people are scared. They're like, oh gosh, this is a lot of work to get to that. But we're like, well, you know what? That's fine. We're not out to, you know, be a demo.
I kind of really respect that, because, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, you know, nobody will ever come and say, well, you know, you guys are like just a demo, you know, mill. And that there are prerequisites. I mean, I always put a big, huge disclaimer saying, I'm not going to produce a demo if you're not ready, because you need to be able to replicate that sound. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
And so I do feel demos are an important tool for a business. What else? What about, I mean, I feel like every voice actor needs to have an online presence.
I 100% agree with that.
Website / social media /
Yes, you need to have a website. I mean, so with Atlanta Voiceover Studio, you know, we have these industry pro workouts where we'll bring in like agents or, you know, creative directors or casting directors or whatever. I've had several people that have been our industry pro that have said, you know what, we wanted to book somebody, we couldn't find them. Or like they're like, I love this voice, and then we couldn't find. They had no website. We couldn't search for them. You need to be searchable these days.
That's
like,
a wonderful.
You need to be searchable.
I love that you brought that up because I mean I host workouts as well with agents and casting directors, and an online presence, a website, and a way to get to your demo or a sample that can be downloaded and passed around.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone to a website and you can't download their demo, or there's not an easy way to get in touch with them. Like, where's the contact information? Or there's a form somebody has to fill out. And I'm like, I just really give me an email address or a phone number, or so that I can get in touch quickly, because you don't want to make it too hard for somebody to get in touch with you. And everybody's like, but I'm afraid to maybe post my phone number for spam. I'm like, really? Like, I
have my phone number up there. I know
you're a business.
I agree.
A phone number or some way to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I literally, this is on a personal note, there have been some vendors, some very large vendors that have foregone phone support and gone completely digital, where they'll have like a chat bot on their website, which I think is fine. But when you've got those problems or those questions, or you need to contact them for, something that isn't covered by their chat bot, being able to contact somebody either in a Zoom, a video meeting, or a phone call is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies I know, to save money, have foregone that tech support or that phone support. And I will say right now, I don't know if that's going to last very long, because there are always those conditions where people need to get in touch with you. Like, quickly.
And this is for vendors. This is you. Voice Talent have done it, right? Or...
Well, I make sure that people can get in touch with me in any which way. I'm like, here's my email, here's a phone number, here's a Zoom link, here's a Source Connect link, here's a IPDTL link. Go ahead, get in touch with me.
I know.
And
I even put it on my
spam.
social accounts too.
I deal with spam, and it's just it. I mean, there's lots of spam protection filters in place. So for me, I would rather have somebody be able to get in touch with me, because gosh, they might want to hire me.
Of course.
But,
do you think that it's that it matters what type of genre that you're into? Because I know commercials, I mean, they move so fast. I lost a job just the other weekend because
all the time, because you can't respond in time.
Yeah, I couldn't do. I mean, I literally had LASIK surgery, so I couldn't get it done. But they needed it right then and there, and I couldn't, do it. But
absolutely.
So that's the other reason why I'm like, my phone number is everywhere.
I know if I can't contact somebody, if they don't get back to me right away, I'm like, well, fine. I guess you don't want the work. I mean, sure, you don't want my business. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just go find somebody that does. So,
Yeah.
gosh. So what's next for you and the Atlanta Voiceover Studio? What's in your future?
Gosh. Honestly, some potentially big changes.
Ooh.
But
sounds
not,
exciting.
I don't even know if it's so the place that we rent, the lease is up in October, and our original plan was to buy something. There's just not a lot available in Atlanta right now that's the size that we need and stuff. So so we'll probably move spaces.
Ooh, that's a big thing.
So that's a big thing. That'll be a move in October. And so I don't know. We're going to have to change some things. To be honest with you, the studio has been wonderful. It's grown so much. I mean, we're about to celebrate 8 years this summer, which is crazy.
That's fantastic.
But it's been a lot on Mike and I. So it may even be changes of like we fine tune things or we shrink some of the things that we offer, to be honest with you, because it's a lot of work on our part, and we
do you have a day off?
We try and take the weekends off, but we don't take a paycheck either from the studio.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's funny.
Like,
I don't have a studio and I work 6.5 days a week.
Yeah,
so
I know you do.
And I really try not to, because you're right. I think for my own creative, mindset and health, it's important to have that refresh time. So.
Well, and let me ask you this too, because this is something that I think we've experienced, is like Mike and I love to give to people, and that's been the thing with Atlanta Voiceover Studio. But if you keep giving and giving and giving, it's really easy to get burnout.
Yeah,
And you're just
it
like,
is.
I
It is.
wasn't able to fill up. And we recognize that too with like COVID was really hard going through all of that, and then coming out of it. And
Yeah.
it
is hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
And I know I did that with VO Peeps for a long, long time. I mean, you give, you give, you give. VO Boss, this podcast is one of those, I wanted to give back. And if you're not careful, it will burn you out.
Yeah.
It is one of those things. And I thought, well, maybe I'll give up the VO Peeps and it'll just be VO Boss. And I couldn't do that because I don't know.
I know.
I liked my bird. I liked my little Peeps bird.
Well, and we like
I love
to
my
give.
VO Boss.
Yeah, it's not. It's not going to stop, but it is a tricky thing to try and find that balance of like, how do I
to navigate,
fill back up myself so I can give to other people?
Well, absolutely. So. Well, you guys have just been amazing, and you're just an icon in Atlanta there. And it was so wonderful to actually get the opportunity to have you on the show.
I know.
Because you guys are bosses, and you are a boss. So, thank you so much. And we really appreciate you sharing your nuggets of wisdom. And I love that you really, spoke about your own, when you have self-doubts, and because that really means a lot to people out there that think, gosh, she must have it all because she's been doing it forever. And and it really helps to know that we're not alone out there. Yeah. And so I appreciate your transparency.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes.
And thank you, VO Bosses, for letting me be with you in this moment.
Yay. Awesome. All right, guys, a big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like Heidi and I. Find out more at IPDTL.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.